Welcome to Verbal Prick Radio, where we give you a verbal image of life, and we are everyday people. Like to welcome you all to the show. Look, so let me explain to y'all what's going on, right? And this all has to do with Black history, and Black history is world history. It's not just American history. We got to stop that. Black history is world history. I'll explain that in a minute. So let me give you all a brief backdrop, right, of what I'm doing. So recently I was in New Orleans for the Super Bowl, right? So the first day I get down there, right, I think it was like early Saturday, right? And I started seeing, and I assumed they were white Christians because of the message that they was giving and the pamphlets that they were handing out, right? And they was talking about Jesus and their form of Christianity. That was that Saturday morning. Saturday evening. Let's say around 2, 3, right? Then later on that Saturday night, more of them came out on different blocks, right? And they were handing out pamphlets, and they were talking about their form of Christianity, but in a Constantine or from a European perspective, right? And I said, so when the guy approached me, he was like, "Here's a pamphlet, Christianity." I said, "Well, that's Constantine Christianity that you're preaching." And I told him that was a slave making religion, meaning that they used Christianity to help enslave black people. Well, meaning to help the slaves digest their condition and make it more bearable. And they used Christianity, and that's why it was important to teach the slaves Christianity. Man, the guy got so upset, right? Well, when I went and I left, sat down at a restaurant, and he followed me into the restaurant, right? But he wanted to say something, but it looked like he took my picture and left, right? So that Sunday was the day of the Super Bowl. Here come the Hebrew Israelites, right? They out in droves, preaching or proselytizing what Hebrew Israelites believe and the connection of black people to the Bible and the times in which Jesus lived, right? And then I had to stop myself, right? And I said, well, you know what? I can't get upset with the white guy, and I hope the white guy didn't get upset with me for stating what I've learned. Maybe he is preaching what he was taught and didn't know the other side of that. And that's what I'm here today to do, is to give you guys the other side of that. So anyway, I went up to the Hebrew Israelite brother, and I was like, bruh, a lot of people think slavery started in Africa, right? But it didn't. He was like, yeah, we chopped it up for a minute, and I left, for Super Bowl weekend, you know what I mean? I'm there to enjoy myself. I'm partying, you know what I mean? So let me I'm gonna read something to you all, and this is from the book. Hold on, it's page 2. I'm gonna get the guy's name, and we finna get right on into it. They call him Cole Cotton, but I just want to get his whole. Okay, the title of the book is "The Religious Instruction of the Negroes," right, in the United States, and it was the religious instructions of the Negroes to Christianity, right, and he put it out, and this was what was supposed to be, this was the backdrop to how everything took place, and how the narrative was created for black people in America to think a certain way, right? To view themselves a certain way by way of what was taught or instructed for them to think, right? Meaning you had scholars behind the scene creating a thought pattern for black people on how to think in what they call the new world, right? And it's been going on till 2025. So from 1492 to 2025, there was a mindset that was created for black people in America, a certain way that they wanted black people to think, right? Okay. Published in 1842 by Savannah, published by Thomas Peirce, right? I just want to get. It was written by Charles Colcock Jones. This was in July 4th, 1842. There's a lot of important things happen July 4th on that particular day, right? We have to go back and do the symbology and the science of July 4th maybe at a later date, but a lot of things took place July 4th in this country. I mean, significant things, right? Okay. One's coming up, what? We'll talk about that later. I want to just get into this for you guys. All right, and I won't be long, but I want to read directly from this, and you can get the book yourself, Religious Instructions, or instructions to the instructions of Christianity to the Negroes. Look, it says in the content, it says the plantations should be brought under religious influence and the physical condition of the people improved, right? Now, they're saying that the church want to get involved in the money, but they want to keep their hands, out of it. So, look, we'll give you our blessings to set these plantations up, right? But don't treat them too bad, because we still got to keep moral dignity as a church, right? I mean, this is so wild on the mindset, right? Okay, so check this out. This is page 2, right? Religious instructions of the Negroes, right? Account of the introduction of the Negroes into the colonies under the government of Great Britain, right? It was in the year 1501. 1501 is when it actually started. Okay, let me get back to it. It actually started in 1492. It actually started before 1492 because the Inquisition in Spain is where they started learning the brutality, how they were brutalizing the black Moors. They had such hate for the Moors, right? And we'll do a topic on why they had such hate for the Moors. But it started in really before 1492 because the Inquisition started the conflict between the Moors and the Spaniards. You all got to remember that the Spaniards and the Portuguese was really the Goths and the Visigoths, right? That the Moors had conquered and brought in with them language and building and medicine and libraries and building mosques throughout Portugal and Spain. Okay. It was the year 1501 that Isabella of Spain granted permission for the introduction of Negro slaves into Hispaniola, right? They gave permission 1501. Okay, look, y'all can start having slaves in Spain, right? But such only as had been born in Spain. It was just Spain at the time. Then started in Africa, right? Or in slavery among Christians. And in the following year, a few had been sent into the New World. So in 1502, 1503, from Spain, they started sending slaves to the Americas, or what they call America, the New World, right? Okay. In 1508, the Spaniards opened a direct trade in slaves. and imported Negroes into Spain from the Portuguese settlement on the coast of Guinea. Now, so they had a post Portuguese, right? So they was importing from Guinea first to Portuguese, right, from the slave post, right, and bringing them into Spain. They bringing them. First, it started in Spain. Then they had a post in Guinea. They taking them from Guinea, bringing them to Hispaniola, and from Hispaniola, they putting them in different parts of where they want to take them to. Right? Okay. 1508, the Spaniards opened a direct trade in slaves and imported Negroes into Hispaniola from the Portuguese settlements on the coast of Guinea. Ferdinand V, by royal ordinance, enjoyed a direct traffic in slaves between Guinea and Hispaniola in 1511, and Charles V in 1512 to 1513. In 1517, Charles V granted a patent to one of his Flemish favorites, containing an exclusive right of importing slaves, 4,000 annually, into Hispaniola. He was importing 4,000 slaves annually coming into Spain. Okay. Now, wait. They were coming 4,000 annually into Hispaniola, right? Cuba, Jamaica, and Puerto Rico. This favorite sold his patent to some Genoese merchants. The Genoese were the Italians. The Genoese merchants for 25,000 ducats, and they were the first who brought into regular form that commerce for slaves between Africa and America, right? Then they started bringing slaves from Africa to America, which has since been carried on under such revolting circumstances and to such an amazing extent. 45 years after, in 1563, the English entered the trade, right? In 1562, that's when the English entered the slave trade. Some accounts say 1555, but for here in this particular book, it has 1562, that the English entered the slave trade under Sir John Hawkins. Who was John Hawkins? John Hawkins carried slaves from Africa to America on a slave ship called Jesus. It all intertwines with each other. Religious instruction for Christianity to the Negroes. John Hawkins carrying slaves from Africa to the New World on a slave ship named Jesus. Let's keep going. Okay, so John Hawkins and carried Negroes from Africa to Spain, right? He was bringing them from Africa to Spain, New World, Spain, Europe. And in 1567, Queen Elizabeth protected and shared the traffic. Thus, the mother country was engaged in the traffic 45 years before the first permanent settlement was made in her America. Colonies, which was at Jamestown, Virginia in 1607, right? The Dutch, in common with other maritime nations of Europe, engaged in the trade, and a man of war of that nation from the coast of Guinea in August 1620, 4 months before the Plymouth colony arrived in America, landed 20 Negroes for sale in the colony. So only 20 had hit America in 1620, right? They coming off the coast of Guinea. In August 1620, 4 months before the Plymouth colony arrived in America, landed 20 Negroes for sale in the colony. So all the slaves was coming from Africa to Hispaniola. They was getting them from Cuba, Puerto Rico, Let me get the names right. We gotta get okay. So they was getting slaves. They was picking them up from Cuba, Jamaica, and Puerto Rico, bringing them to Hispaniola, right? Putting them in slaves, letting you know the true faces of Puerto Rico. The Tainos was slaves, picking them up and bringing them as slaves, right, into Hispaniola, right. This is where the crisscross was going on. You taking the melanated people, right, out of Cuba, right, out of Jamaica and out of Puerto Rico, bringing them Hispaniola into Spain, and then taking them, moving them into the Americas later on in time, and then you replacing the melanated people with Europeans. You know, hey, we keep going though. It is wild. Okay, so after John Hopkins, he carried Negroes from Africa to Hispaniola. The Dutch got involved in the Commonwealth. And then you had 4 months before the Plymouth colony arrived in America, landed 20 Negroes for sale in the colony, right? It's all black history. And they landed in the colony of Virginia on James River, which determines the epoch of their induction into the colonies. From this period, they were gradually and at different times introduced into all colonies from Massachusetts to Georgia, and for the most part, contrary to the wishes of the colonists, the first cargo of Negro slaves was brought into Boston in 1645, and though their introduction was denounced and the Negroes ordered to be returned at public charge, yet it was afterwards permitted and people engaged in the trade, right? So what they're trying to say was, okay, we want y'all to return. We really don't want to get involved in this slave thing, but okay, we're gonna keep y'all, right? We're gonna deal with the slave thing, right? In Maryland, acts were passed encouraging the importation of Negroes, right, in 1671, and in this same year, they were first introduced into South Carolina. They were legally admitted into Georgia in 1747. The precise year of their admission into the remaining 8 of the old 13 colonies is not accurately known. Estimated Negro population of the colonies at the Declaration of Independence and census of 1790. I have no references at hand by which to determine the number of Negroes in each of the colonies, nor the aggregate in all before the Declaration of Independence, as no general census was ever taken of the colonies while they continued such. But there are statements of the number in most of the colonies given in different years, for which I shall proceed to mention. Virginia was settled in 1607 and in 1671 contained 2,000 Negroes. In 1763, it was 100,000 Negroes. Massachusetts was settled in 1620 and in 1763 contained 4,500 slaves. Rhode Island was settled in 1636 and 1680 had imported but a few Negroes. In 1730 contained 1,648, and in 1748 they had 4,373. But if you go back in the census, everybody was called Negro at that time, even the Native Americans in America. Everybody was called Negro. And then mulatto was a African who had mixed with a Native American. That child was a mulatto, original term. Okay. Connecticut was settled in 1635. In 1680, had 30 Negroes, and in 1774, 6,464. New Hampshire was settled from Massachusetts and became a separate colony in 1741, and in 1775 contained 659 Negroes. New York was settled by the Dutch in 1613, and 1756 contained 13,542 Negroes. So it's letting you know that the slaves, if you look at this account, and mathematically speaking, you can tell that the slaves that was being brought from Africa to America wasn't that all large in numbers. All those slaves was coming from Africa to America, right? But the majority of the slaves were making that was already here on the land, right? Okay, let's continue. North Carolina. Okay, no, here we go. Okay, we go. Okay, let's go. It was New York. New Jersey was settled in 1627 and 1738. Contained 3,981 Negroes and slaves. You get that? That's why I was saying. You gotta understand they was just, if you was melanated, you was Negro, and then slave I was synonymous, whether you were Native American or whatnot, right? That's why it says in New Jersey was settled 1627 and 1738 contained 3,981 Negroes and slaves, right? And in 1745, it jumped up to 4,606. Maryland was granted to Lord Baltimore in 1632, and in 1755 contained 42,764 Negroes, and for a time, 2,000 were imported annually. Mr. Burke says in 1757, the number was upwards of 60,000. Meaning, in Baltimore, I always been black. All right, let's keep going. North Carolina was permanently settled in 1650 and became distinct from Virginia in 1727. In 1701, it had 5,000 inhabitants besides Negroes and Indians, and in 1702, it had 6,000 altogether. Right? They not counting these with Anglos, Caucasians, right? You the other, and you all in the same boat, right? See, that's why it gets me today when I be seeing people, I'm from here, I'm from there. In America, it's no, y'all are everybody's the same, okay? Meaning, you can say, I'm not black, I'm from the DR, you black. I'm not black, I'm from Puerto Rico, you're black. I'm not black, I'm from Mexico, you black. You know what I mean? Unless you came out of European Spain. They telling you, but divide and conquer, I get it. Okay, it's a tactic. South Carolina was granted to Lord Clarendon. South Carolina was granted to Lord Clarendon in 1662. In 1723, contained 8,000 Negroes. In 1724, 439 were imported. Now, where they import them to, I don't know. And maybe they imported them back to Africa. They didn't say where they imported them to. In 1730, contained 28,000. 1731, 1,500 were imported. In 1705, contained 90,000. In 1773, over 6,000 were imported. This colony lost 25,000 Negroes in the Revolutionary War. Maybe they were imported to Britain. I don't know. Georgia was settled in 1732 to 1733. Slavery was legalized in 1747, and in 1772 contained 4,000 Negroes. The probable number of Negroes in the colonies at the Declaration of Independence in 1776 may be ascertained in the following manner. Take the known population in the different colonies nearest the year 1776, compare that with the census of 1790, take into consideration the rate of increase from nature and from importation, and also the decrease, and then give the supposed population in round numbers. Massachusetts last returned in 1763 to 1776, 13 years, the population decreasing, supposed population in 1776, and it goes on breaking it down. The Declaration of Independence must have been inconsiderable, as it was not until after the Revolution that owners and manumissions in the progress of acts of abolition multiplied. The census of the United States for 1790 gives 697,697 slaves and 59,481 free persons of color, a total of 178,000. Right. Now they said free persons of color in 1790. Who were the free persons of color? They were your Moors, those who paid money to free themselves, freemen, right? But as time went on, racism. See, the Caucasian couldn't tell the difference between the black Native Americans, the black Africans that was kidnapped and brought to America. They couldn't tell the difference between the Moors. None of them, so they just rounded everybody up, treated everybody the same way because they couldn't tell the difference. Only we knew the difference. We were like, well, I've been here. I'm Native American, right? I'm not the ones I just brought over here, right? Well, I'm a Moor. I just came from Spain. You know, we just lost the war in Spain. I'm here in America. We knew, but they couldn't tell the difference. They just looked at us all from the lightest to the darkest. You was all the same. They can the slave. They couldn't tell. Till this day they can't tell. Only we make the differences. They handle us all with one hand, and we say no, we different, which we play a part in our disunity is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so what happened was we as a people and the Caucasian, right? They understood how to use the differences that we portrayed towards one another. They used those differences to divide and conquer, i.e. Willie Lynch letters. Right? It is what it is. You know, but one thing you got to remember though before we close, it started in Spain. The Moors have a part because you had Christian Moors, Muslim Moors, and Jewish Moors, right? But we were all Moors. The Jewish Moors worked hand in hand with the Muslim Moors in Spain. The Muslim Moors treated the Jewish Moors as equals, gave them jobs and gave them trusted jobs. Right. That's why when the Moors lost, they kicked the Moors and the Jews out of Spain. And they had to come settle in different parts of the globe, from America to Africa and other places where the Moors settled, out of the Philippines and different places, right? So I say that to say, even out to New Zealand, to Moors was everywhere. Mexico, and see Gaspar Yanga. They wanted to try to make you think that all the slaves that came to America came out of Africa, which was not true. It started in Spain, right? And go do your research and look it up. This is just something for you for Black History right here on Rural Creek Radio, and we are out.